Hello, beautiful souls. It's Kat from Elevate, my channel where we talk about recovering from toxic relationships and regaining self love and self esteem. Today's topic is going to be: will a toxic person change if I just love them more? And also leading us into the other question: should you keep a toxic person in your life? Very difficult decision. So, I've read a lot online lately about borderline personality disorder because I had a close friend who I think had it. And then suddenly he began devaluing me and giving me the silent treatment as punishment, especially if I ever mentioned anything he didn't like, especially if I mentioned maybe he should go back to his doctor or that he should tend to his mental health. He just began hating me more and more after that point. So this person was already medically diagnosed by a psychiatrist as having bipolar, but since I have a background in psychology, I personally felt it was borderline, although it could have been both borderline and bipolar, as there's a lot of comorbidity with these types of illnesses. And one thing, you know, I tried my best not to judge this person or to make this person feel bad in any way because I'm just not that way. I have a lot of compassion for people with mental illnesses because I do have people in my family that have them. Um, but people that are not medicated or not in therapy are often going to be very angry with you for bringing these things up. So, like, even aside from mental illness, if you have someone who's a drug addict or someone who's an alcoholic in your family, when you bring up these things, they are going to be angry with you. And unfortunately, that seems to always be the case. And it's hard because, especially, you can fall into a codependent role if you try to avoid conflict with these people by not bringing it up. And yet, when you bring it up, there's going to be a conflict. So there can become a bit of a conflict avoidance that can occur, and can become more of an enabler as you stop objecting to, let's say, these issues or bringing these issues up, and you start walking on eggshells. It's like a very slippery slope. You have to be careful. But anyway, in one interesting thing I've noticed in doing some research online is that people who defend borderlines say that they're sick and cannot be held responsible for their illness. And I think, that's true to a point. Like, they're mentally ill. They don't necessarily know what they're doing. And I agree with that point. But one professional counselor said we should be kind and understanding towards these people. But this brought up a bigger question for me. Should you keep a toxic person in your life and continue to love them? Where is the line between your compassion for them and the betrayal or abandonment of yourself? Where do you draw the line? Is self-preservation the most important thing? Or will you sacrifice yourself as a martyr for this person because they're not well? So these are all really good questions to ask. And, is it wise to keep toxic people in your life and stay kind, understanding, and compassionate? I know for sure that road is a codependent road, as I've been there before. There's nothing wrong with people kind and caring. You want to be kind and caring, but the issue lies in when you give that kindness and love to someone who doesn't deserve it. And I think that's like the biggest codependent mistake that we make as codependents, or people just who are very, empathetic and compassionate. Like, they want to give that to people in general. And I'm just that way with everybody in general. And I can tend to give it to the wrong person. And at first, people will, even these dysfunctional people who have cluster B or whatever, at first, those people want it. At first, they want it and they accept it, and they are, in a positive, they receive it in a positive way. But ultimately, because of the underlying issues that they have, they will begin to resent you. They will begin to get angry at you. And like I said, it's a slippery slope. It becomes it becomes a bigger issue because you're giving it to the wrong person. That person doesn't want to give back to you, right? And so when you're giving, even if that person gave back to you before, like for me with the borderline person, we became really like best friends. And to me, that person's friendship meant so much to me. And I was really happy to have that person in my life. And I wanted the best for that person. But that person ultimately started to not be my friend. That person started to do manipulative things like tell lies, say verbally abusive things to me, insult me, that like in very inappropriate ways that weren't even rational, like they didn't even make sense. That person started to give me the silent treatment. That person started to resent me for saying, "Hey, I think you should go to your doctor." Like I said, and as time went on, because I could see what was going on with this person was not okay, that it was not typical. And I felt that this person needed to go get professional help. And I knew they had stopped going to therapy and they were not on any medication. And even they were just diagnosed basic with bipolar, you need medication if you're bipolar. Like there's just no other way. Like it's to me, the difference between a person who is bipolar, who is unmedicated versus medicated is like light years away. Medication for bipolar is like the speeding bullet. Like it is the answer in my opinion for bipolar. Obviously, this person also has borderline, they're going to need therapy for that. Medication is not going to resolve that. But at the least for the bipolar, if that's what he really had, medication was necessary. So, um, going back to that, so we were really, really good friends. And to me, it meant a lot. But to this person, it didn't. And I could see all these strange things happening, even to the point where this person had false memories of things that had happened between us. Like they were saying, I said this to you. And meanwhile, I knew that had never happened. And they said, like, I had said something to them or that I felt a certain way about them. And I knew that that wasn't true because I had never felt that way. The way that they described, I had never said anything like that. I had never, um, I didn't think I had even made that impression to them. So this person actually had false memories, like false ideas of who I was and what I said and what they said to me that never had happened. So that's like, really somebody who needs help, like somebody who really isn't like in touch with the reality at hand. So I tried the best I could to help this person for a long time. And then I had no contact for months and months. Then I had contact again, and it was a mistake on my part to try to make peace and extend the olive branch. And now I'm in no contact again because this person's just too damaging to me. And I can't, I don't want to fall into codependency with this person. So I think despite the fact that borderlines may be mentally ill and they don't necessarily know what kind of emotional damage they're causing other people, the damage is still being done. If you're the other person in this dynamic, you're getting damaged. If you're allowing someone to damage you, then it's on you to remove yourself from the situation. Nobody is coming to save you, and nobody's coming to make the decision for you. You have to make the decision. And I'm not saying it's not a hard decision to make because, like for me, having had to cut this person off once before and then doing it again, um, it's like it was very hard because I wanted this person to, succeed in life and be like let's say live up to their highest potential. He had a lot of big dreams and he could have achieved those things, but he can't if he's like literally floundering by shooting himself in the foot by not taking care of his mental health as the most basic thing, um, because he was very smart. So I think it's a very hard decision to make to leave someone who has seemed to be less capable and has needed you in some way in the past, or you have been enabling that person. We feel bad, we feel guilty, like I'm going to leave this person, but they might need me. In my situation, the person needed me for a period of time and seemed to really need me, even told me, I can't lose you from my life prior to me going no contact. And so it was very hard for me to then have to cut that person off because it was like, I didn't know, what does this person really need from me? Do they really need me in their life? Do they not? Because their behavior had changed. Very confusing when you're dealing with people that have these mental issues. So, you can't let your compassion run you into the ground. You have to draw a line at some point. Haven't you been taken advantage of enough? That's a deep question, and it's kind of loaded because, where do you draw the line in being taken advantage of? If you had a friendship with someone, let's say, and they stopped being your friend and they started to verbally abuse you or started to not be a friend towards you, but you knew they were going through a tough time and they, let's say, had lost their job and, were suffering from mental illness and seemed to be needing friend, where do you draw the line? It's a good question. Uh, Codependency is caretaking for others despite how they treat us. Codependents feel a lot of responsibility, compassion, and empathy for people who are mentally ill, abusive, addicts, and other severely dysfunctional people. There are many different reasons why people can become codependent, which I won't go into this video. However, I feel like you need to know that extending kindness and understanding to those that hurt you isn't necessary or admirable, in my opinion. Removing yourself from the situation, removing toxic people from your life, and doing no contact is the only way to free yourself from the responsibility you're feeling over another person's dysfunction. You can't save them. It's not your job. And it's about time you started saving yourself. You need saving from your own excessive compassion and empathy for abusers. You need love for yourself. You may be extremely capable, extremely resilient, strong, and empathetic, but you need to turn that empathy onto yourself and stop giving away the pieces of yourself to someone who doesn't appreciate you. This abuser isn't honoring you. This abuser isn't treating you with respect and love. This abuser does not deserve all of the goodness you're pouring onto them. Even if you're doing it purely out of your good nature, you need to stop, end all contact, and turn your focus back to you. That could, quote, sound selfish, but it isn't. When you have a tendency to focus on others as codependents do, codependent people need to get more selfish. That's the whole thing. Codependent people need to start realizing that they matter, that their needs matter, that their feelings matter. And it's probably true that you've been in a relationship or friendships with people who took advantage of you and they didn't honor your feelings and they dismissed your feelings and they made you feel like those things weren't important, that what you wanted, what you needed, what you felt was not important. But it is important. It's the most important. You have to think about yourself as number one. As an aside, even BPD and NPD people can act in codependent ways. So essentially, they can be codependent, but it's not the same type of codependency people have who don't have cluster B personality disorders. It's different. So you'll hear, though, it's often that BPD and NPD people get into relationships together where the BPD person acts very codependent. This is because the BPD person has a deep core wound of never feeling good enough. And this is perfect for an NPD person to exploit. The BPD person will run away from any type of healthy love or care, even in friendships, because they have a fear of engulfment and they also don't feel worthy of it. So if you give them like healthy, real caring and love, they don't feel worthy of it. So they run away. But they'll run towards unhealthy relationships with narcissists and others who treat them poorly. It surely goes back to their childhood and things they haven't sorted out, of course, as all these things go back to everyone's childhood, right? And they just keep repeating that pattern where they try to be loved by narcissists who can't love because they don't believe they're actually lovable and worthy of the love from a healthy person. So that's how like a BPD person can interact with a narcissistic person, and then the BPD person can become codependent and get abused. But the BPD person, borderline personality disorder, they can interact then with a healthy person who's not NPD, and they hurt the healthy people too because they can't accept real love and real caring. They have a fear of engulfment, which kicks up as you get closer, and they also deep down inside don't feel worthy. So the more, and I've experienced this myself, I feel like the more caring you are, the more loving you are, the more forgiving you are, the worse they'll treat you. Unfortunately, it's for a different reason than an NPD person would treat you badly. So these two cluster B disorders are closely linked in some ways. I mean, they're both considered the cluster Bs, but I feel like they have different motivations, and you know, they come out in different ways. And then when they get together, it could be even just the most toxic because they're both just so damaging to one another. And it's sad for BPD people. I feel bad for BPD people because they are going to run away from healthy people that love them, and they're going to run towards unhealthy people, and they're not able to kind of see it all happening. This can happen with codependence as well, running towards getting involved with a narcissist NPD person. But again, it's a different dynamic because regular codependents don't display all the other negative BPD criteria that makes BPD such a forcefully disastrous disorder that wrecks people's lives. Um, it wrecks the lives of the person with BPD, and it also wrecks the lives of romantic partners, friends, and family of those with BPD. There's so much destruction, and the BPD person doesn't even know it. And that's why I said like I feel sad. So just to go back to the original question, will a toxic person change if I just love them more? I don't think so, because I think that their core wounds and their issues can't be loved out of them. I think they need therapy, they need medication. And unfortunately, as codependents, we've tried, like we've all tried to love the people more and give them kindness and give them compassion. But at a certain point, you become a martyr. At a certain point, you become an enabler. It's kind of like you're twisting yourself into a pretzel to accommodate the needs and the um, emotions of this other person. However, you're forgetting your own needs, and you're forgetting your own right to be you, to have those needs, to honor yourself as a separate whole person with feelings. You're putting your feelings aside if you're constantly just loving and being compassionate towards a person with these disorders, and then you're losing yourself. So no, the toxic person is not going to change. That's my opinion. What do you all think online? Comment below and let me know your thoughts. And of course, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, press the bell icon, and then you'll be notified to get any new videos that I put out.